Okay, so I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how to set up one of the camera systems. This is a camera that I just built, so I'm going to walk through the steps of what it takes to put it together. Got all of our electronics in there. One of the first things that I usually do is hook up my battery. Got two clips down here. I'll move this around so you can see just a little bit better. I usually clip the battery down here on the posts at the bottom when I'm not using them. This is the power source. These other two clips are for the charging system. And the only reason you wouldn't have power once you make those two clips is if you come around here to the front and you open up here, you have a little light here that shows on your inverter that it's working. There's a reset button. I've had to push that a couple of times in all the times I've used this. It doesn't happen too often, but there is a reset button right there. We'll open up the legs. These just slide out and extend. They're just tripod legs. Important step when you do this though is I'm in a nice controlled environment right now with a nice flat surface. Sometimes out on a sport field you have bumps and things like that, so I always look to try and set up on a nice flat area. But then the other thing that I would say to do is make sure and step back and look at your mast and make sure it's nice and vertical from the back side, and then make sure it's nice and vertical from the side. Pretty often you can see if it's leaning or not, and you want it to be pretty straight up and down. This is nice because it's pretty compact. The battery weighing 40 pounds like it does makes a great anchor. So it actually does really well in the wind, even as compact as it is. Anyway, there we go. So I'm basically set up and I'm ready to go. I have a hook right here that I just unhook off of this little guy right here. When you're wheeling it around, I put it on this hook so it doesn't catch the ground, but you want to take it off of there. And then when you open up the case, you'll find a couple of different things. I just pulled out the little spinner. I just put this underneath the mast right here, and it just makes it work a little bit smoother when you're using it. It also makes it so it doesn't dig into the grass when you're using it as well. The top piece, just have to connect the camera onto the little mechanism, and then make sure, depending on which camera you're running, this one has a manual shutter that I have to open. Depends on which cameras I'm able to get my hands on to do these, but turn it on, put it up here in the top. And these are just little flip locks. They're really nice. If you ever have to tighten or loosen them, it's instead of righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, it's backwards. So just pay attention you don't over-tighten them and break them off. So this is all set up and ready to go that way. Then we need to take the TV out. The new TVs that I'm using are 9-inch, and I like them because they just have direct HDMI on the side, which makes for less parts and easier setup. So we just put that on there. A lot of the times when I'm using my system at school or I have the one at the house, when I'm done, I just loosen this and I swing it down instead of putting it back in my case, just because I'm lazy. So far, so good that way. And then you have the remote control. This is the one that I prefer to use because it's a little more ergonomic. You can turn things on and off right here at halftime or before the game. You can take still pictures of kids. This is the speed of zoom. These other functions don't show up and work, but the zoom works great. The speed of zoom, record button, or yeah, the record and the photo button. The other one that I have my hands on is this Sony one. It's a little bit smaller. It's the same idea. it has the same zoom button, same photo button, but it does provide with a little light, a record light. The one thing that this one doesn't have is when you press record, it doesn't show on the screen, and there's no light on this. If you turn it on and you deliberately press record, it works great. I've messed up maybe twice in all the games I've done, or had some of my field experience students make a mistake. This one is kind of foolproof. I have a DVR on my other cameras, so I have a backup place to record, but it's kind of your choice as to which one you want to use. I like this one just because it seems to be, it's easier to find my thumb on this guy while I'm watching the game and watching my camera versus this little tiny one. But anyway, it just clips right here on the handle. So you have this nice ergonomic place to grab and use your thumb. So what do we got? We got our camera, we got everything set up except our tether. Now the tether, there's two tethers that we'll put together. And in very simple terms, there's three cords. There's a power cord, there's an HDMI feed, and then there's the remote tool that we use. So essentially I have to connect these three to the camera on top, and then at the bottom I do the same thing. I've got a power cord that I plug into my inverter. I have an HDMI cable that goes straight into the TV, and then I have this little the other end of the remote control, and both remotes have this little tiny jack that fits into there. So we'll go ahead and assemble that, and we'll be up and running. It's always good to use this Velcro at the top so that the weight is right here on the knot and not on the cords themselves. Hang it up. Video. Sorry, remote, power. Power. And then when I go to do the bottom side of this, quite often I'll find this spot with the short pigtail, and I'll put it right here on this red piece of Velcro. And then I make all three connections down here at the bottom. Oh, gotta plug my TV in, that's what I forgot. TV power. So I know I'm doing good when I plug in all three things, and my camera, you can see there, I have, I'm basically looking back down the mast. Everything works, I'm in good shape. So now I know I can send it up. I usually make sure everything's connected on the bottom before I send it up. The last thing that we have to connect is the little piece of string. I have two versions. I have this thinner, waxy string, and I have paracord. Paracord tends to be maybe a little bit easier to handle, but this is my favorite one to use because, especially in windy conditions, it's funny how much friction the paracord actually does grab when you got 25 feet of it up in the air. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. You just have to make the clip at the end of the camera, and in short terms, let's line these up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send it all the way up, and I'm just going to wrap this around the base so that as I go up and down, the camera goes up and down as well. So we're just going to do that on a high level. I'm going to spin this around so you can see around my other side. So as I go ahead and raise this, the only thing I've learned is up here at the top, if I let go of this string, I have to walk pretty far back to actually get it to come back down. So I just kind of keep a hold of it as I raise it, and I'll just show you how I do that right now. these up. Now I haven't marked this camera yet, but I'll put like little warning track marks on the bottom of each pole so you don't actually accidentally pull them out the top. Once you see those marks on the pole, you don't have to go any higher than that, because you'll still end up with 26 feet worth of pole, which is great. Oh, just like that. I need to mark this one. So I'm just hanging onto it here with my hand and my thumb as I raise it. And that keeps the thing from flipping up over the top. If it flips up, it's not too big a deal. You just got to walk backwards a little bit. So there we go. We're all the way up at the top. This last thing I have to do is just wrap this around the bottom. And then I have a little cleat right here that I just hook it onto. As you kind of wear off some of this waxiness, a lot of times you can just turn the whole thing with your fingers, but when it first comes out, it's still kind of tacky. So there we go. The last thing, I normally tend to have a little ball, one of those little stretchy bungee cords that I hang right here off of this wheel, and then I'll just take it and I'll wrap it around the base here so I don't have any, this doesn't flip around on me at all. But when I get to the top, bring this around so you can see my screen. You can see I have a pretty good view of the court. I can zoom out, I can pan around, and I can take a look at things. When I set up and I'm out in the field, if I'm on a soccer field, I'll make sure and I'll pan to the sides and I'll zoom in to where like corner kicks would be. And then I would pan and look to the other side and I'd make sure I could get the other corner as well. And then I just have kind of my own little protocol as I go. Speed this one up a little bit. As far as how I like to film games and certain things like that. But now that it's up, if I was going to walk away from this, I might use the button down here. Make sure you can see it, this button on the end of the remote, and I might turn it off so that my screen goes blank. And then I can walk away and I can talk to people. I don't have to worry about it. When I come back and the game's getting ready to start, I just make sure and turn it on in time. If I've turned it off at halftime, I know that when I turn it back on, as soon as I press my record button, it works. If you choose to use the other remote, you'll get the little light that tells you that it's recording. But that's it. That's it in a nutshell. To take it back down, it's all reverse order, put things away. I have a charger down by the inverter. I just switch my clips and I plug it into the wall. The charger is just a red light, green light type of a thing. It won't overcharge, so it'll come on red when it's charging. When it's done, it'll turn green. You know you're all charged up. And then you just stow things as you see them. It takes a standard battery, size 24. It needs to be a deep cycle battery, which is like a marine battery. I think the one I have down here, I bought at D&B for 75 bucks. You just need to make sure you buy a deep cycle battery because they drain and charge better than standard automotive batteries. It will run on a standard automotive battery. It just won't, they won't last as long in the long term.